but I try not to overthink it. I think my first instincts are usually better. Then if I overthink it, then it just becomes like torture because then I'm not enjoying it. Yeah.
You're listening to the Voiceover Casting Corner, a podcast and question and answer session recorded live every month. VCC is brought to you by the Voicecaster. The Voicecaster casts thousands of voices every year across all genres, and we're excited to give you an inside look at the casting process direct from our casting team.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Voiceover Casting Corner. My name is Kelly Mushinsky. I am the owner and head of casting at the Voicecaster.
And my name's Kathryn Horan. I'm the senior casting director here at the Voicecaster.
And we are so excited to have with us today E.G. Daly.
E.G. Daly is an iconic veteran actress, singer, songwriter, producer, and director. She has starred in over 40 feature films, including Pee-wee's Big Adventure as Dottie, Valley Girl, the cult classic Rob Zombie's The Devil's Rejects, and 31. She has appeared in many TV shows such as Friends, playing Phoebe's ex-songwriting partner. She is the voice of your childhood, bringing to life Buttercup from the Powerpuff Girls, Babe on the film Babe, Baby Mumbles in Academy Award-winning Happy Feet, and Tommy Pickles in the long-running Emmy Award-winning Nickelodeon and Paramount Plus Rugrats TV series. She has co-produced over 8 albums, as well as hundreds of songs for films and television. She has directed several music videos, and she can be seen in the released feature film The Blonde Experiment as Aquarius on Amazon Prime. You can hear her in action singing in the opening of the trailer for Sing 2. She just released a new single, One Way Love, Better Off Dead, now available on all streaming platforms. E.G. also released a music video and cover song recording for the Go-Go's tribute album We Got the Beat earlier this year. You can also hear her singing on the iconic and hilarious 2.5 Men theme song. E.G.'s love for voice acting and desire to help others learn inspired her to film a seminar. It includes all of her tips, tools, and how-tos of voiceover acting, titled E.G.'s Daily Up Close and Personal Voiceover Seminar. Her one-woman autobiographical musical, Listen Closely, is also out, and both are available on Amazon. E.G. won Animal Activist of the Year 2023 from Last Chance for Animals and continues to be a voice for the voiceless. E.G. has completed Season 3 of the new Rugrats on Paramount Plus and Nickelodeon as the iconic Tommy Pickles, and she can also be heard lending many voices on the primetime animated show Grimmsburg, starring John Hamm.
So, I mean, everybody's heard of at least 10 things that Kathryn just mentioned in your bio. Incredible career you've had and continue to have.
Thank you.
So, how did you get started in the voiceover industry?
Let's see. It wasn't ever something that I was like running around trying to do. It wasn't like I want to be a famous cartoon when I grow up, or it was nothing like that. I was just doing a play and had always been a singer and had always been doing some kind of music and acting. And so to me, like singing and acting lends itself beautifully to voiceover. So I was doing this play and someone heard me in the play doing different voices, just kind of shifting my voice around in the play. I had to age my voice up from a baby up. And it was like, wow, you do really profoundly good kids' voices. Like they sound real. And I was like, oh, cool. I didn't think anything of it, but he sent me on the very first audition. He was like, you should try this. You might be good at it. And I went on this audition where they wanted me to do the voice of a little boy. And I did it. And the next thing you know, I booked it. And that was Tommy Pickles decades ago. So it was kind of my first job. And it sort of was like a real testament to like, the universe supporting me to do something that was just, really fun and natural.
Yeah, all the stars aligned.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Yeah.
So you've been in this industry for a while. What trends have you seen in animation throughout your career?
Sometimes they want more real sounding, especially if you do children's voices. Sometimes they want more real, genuine sounding children's voices. And sometimes they'll still use adults, but they want the adults to sound more real, like a kid, not like they're putting on a kid's voice. And sometimes then it flips back to where they want a little more cartoon or animated. It just really varies. And I've noticed it switching back and forth over the time where they're like, they kind of want more real sounding kids now, or they kind of actually just want kids now, or they, it just varies. And each show varies. Like sometimes they want a more bigger, bolder animated sound for shows, or sometimes they want it more real. So they usually direct you, but I don't find it to be like, I just find it to be ever changing. And so you just kind of go with whatever the next thing is. You know what I mean?
Are there any things over the years that you miss about the industry? I know a lot has changed, especially in the last maybe 5 to 10 years.
That's a good question. I think when COVID hit and then everybody was like frozen, and then people, luckily, some people had their own studios and you had to get your own studios. And luckily, I had a studio here and I just upgraded it. So it was real high quality, ready to go for jobs, but I hadn't started doing jobs in it. So I think that just wiped away the sense of like the community vibe. You're in the studio working with your peers, you get to drive to another location, you get to be in a different environment. So I think that's the thing I miss the most about how the times have changed. And also on the other hand, looking at glass half full too, you could do a session from home. You don't have to drive across town. You can get the session done in 15, 20 minutes sometimes, depending on your job, as opposed to 2 or 3 hours. So there's good things to both. And, and there's things you can lose on either side. So I think either way it works itself out.
Perfect. Yes, I agree.
Awesome. So you obviously have had such a long, successful career, and still going strong. It's incredible. Your list of accomplishments. How do you stay on top of things? How do you work on your craft? What kind of things do you do as an actor?
I try to just be aware. I try to notice like, the tone of different jobs. Like if I get asked to do a certain job, I try to listen and be aware of the tone of it. Like what kind of vibe are these characters? Like I worked on Grimsburg with John Hamm, which was a primetime show. And it was very like, there's a lot of humor in it and it was sort of dry. And so I just kind of try to go by the tone of whatever the show is. Everyone is so different, so I just try to stay alert and also like find myself listening to radio commercials and TV commercials and noticing the tone of those these days. Like, are they going for more real? Are they going for more like casual? Some of them are like, tonight on Fox, will he get the guy? We'll see coming up on Fox, whatever it is, whatever the thing is, I try to notice like, or is it like Fox Kids Network coming up soon? Is it one of those like super hyped out, young, youthful? I just try to pay attention. And the other way that I try to learn is I like listening to people in general in life, like listening to the tone of their voice, noticing how their speeches or especially children. I pay attention when children are talking, like some are sort of talk like this. And they say, my mom loves it when I go over to my friend Justin's house. They kind of break up their speech and everything's a little broken. So I pay attention because that's so fun. It's a fun thing to do. Or like, I don't really like you very much. I don't think you're being very polite. Just like little kids have weird ways that they talk sometimes. So I pay attention so that I can incorporate that into whatever voices I try to play with.
I love that. Yeah, I feel like we're always telling students to do that. Yeah, make sure you're paying attention, watching shows, listening to those commercials.
You can learn so much.
That's awesome.
Just by watching TV, watching cartoons, noticing the different people on different shows. You'll see them come up in one show and another show, and you'll notice. So paying attention is really good, and playing with your voice.
So I know it's hard to choose, but do you have any favorite projects that you've done, or any favorite success stories that you have?
I mean, it's so varied for me because luckily I've been so blessed to get to do music. And then, like I did the 2.5 Men theme song, which was a blast. And it only took like 20 minutes to do. And so something about that I love, because I love, like for instance, I didn't know my mom. When I'd call my sister, my mom, I'd be like, hi guys. They're like, we're watching our favorite show. And I'd be like, what is that? And they're like, 2.5 Men. And then I'd be like, really? Oh, it's funny because I do the theme song on that. And neither of them knew. So like to me, that was pretty fun. So then I found out they love the show. And then I called Chuck Lorre and I was like, hey guys, my mom and sister are huge fans. I didn't know. And they, and he ended up hooking us up at the studio to a live taping with VIP, everything. And so, I mean, I love the for 2.5 Men thing because it's such a random job, which I like doing random, like singing things or jingles or, and then of course, like there's all the cartoons that I really feel blessed to have gotten to do, like just, they're so varied between Buttercup, who sort of talks like this, feisty, And then Tommy Pickles, who's like, a baby's got to do what a baby's got to do. Just little and baby. And then, in Grimsburg, I did an episode where I played John Hamm as a kid. And so John Hamm kind of talks like this. He sounds like a detective in this thing. So then I went into John Hamm sort of talking like this. And, getting to play with things like that is really fun for me. And also I was Babe, just to clarify, I was Babe in Babe 2, Pig in the City. And that was a really cool job only because they needed to switch out from the first Babe to the second Babe. And in that particular job, I was like, I don't want to do an imitation of Chris, who I respect and love, who, bless her, she's, on another time zone planet. But she was so brilliant. So I was like, I don't want to try to do Chris as Babe. We already have similar qualities in our voice. I like to do my own soul of that character. And it worked. I like to play with different things, is what I'm saying. Yeah,
That's nice. And that's what's so cool about voiceover is you can be anything. You can be anybody.
you really can. That is what's so cool. You can be an inanimate object. You can be the voice of a pillow or the voice of a hanger or a pen.
You were on The Voice as well at one point, correct?
That was a really exciting time, you guys. That was like, because music's always been such a big part of my life. And I had a lot of like 70, 80,000 followers a month sometimes on my Spotify. So I do have a lot of followers on my music, but I've always done like two different people, like E.G. the singer and E.G. the voiceover and E.G. the actress. I've been like three different people. And so when I got to be on The Voice, which wasn't something that I tried to do, it was just a friend of mine who was like, oh, she loved my voice, and I was hosting a music show for her, and she was like, I hope you're not mad at me, but I got you an audition for The Voice. And I was like, oh, no, I can't do that. I have a big, established, beautiful, blessed career. I don't think I could do that. But inside I was like, that would be really fun. And the next thing you know, she said, well, just go. You have a time slot. And I was like, okay, I'll go, out of respect to her, because she was so kind to try to do that for me. It was so genuine. And I went, and I don't know, guys, it was such a blast. It did well in that audition. And there was like months of auditions in between a few auditions. And then when I actually got on The Voice, it wasn't easy. It was super competitive and stressful. So the fact that I even just got on it and got to sing at the blinds was a big deal. I remember like I was watching The Voice on my own TV, watching them and seeing it from that perspective. And all of a sudden I'm like on the stage looking out at it from the other perspective, whereas I'd been watching my TV. So it was so bizarre. I was like, this is so surreal. Now I'm actually on that stage watching it. And then, ended up doing a few rounds, which was so beautiful. And it was like being at summer camp for singers. It was just so much fun.
If you had any advice for actors just starting out in the voiceover industry, what would you say?
I actually did a voiceover seminar. I filmed it. I did it a few years ago back. But in that, I laid out a lot of like tips, tools, how-tos on it. And it's on Amazon. It's like really nothing pricey. I made it so that it would be accessible. It might even be a little outdated at time, but the content is very pertinent. But it's just, I would say, like, if you really love it, really study and be the best you can at it. Find a great class where you learn the basic techniques, like mic, where to stand for your mic and how to handle the technical parts, and then how to be the greatest actor you can in those roles. Because I think being really like having somebody close their eyes and hear you do a voiceover, it's very pivotal. The voice holds the whole spirit of the person. So making sure you're good enough, your acting skills are up so that you can really execute a character that people can feel, whether it's a kid or a toy or a ball or whatever it is, that you're going to really feel those characters. And I would say, be good at what you do. Don't just be like, I have a cool voice, I'm going to do voiceover, because then you're not going to be able to compete with the people that are skilled. So that's why I say, like, you guys teach, as well. It's important to learn. And that was one of my things, is I always studied and learned. And even till this day, I'll do vocal warm-ups for singing because I always want to keep my voice up. I don't feel good when I don't. I like to keep it up. What's interesting is I interviewed a bunch of top voiceover actors. Because I was curious, like, how did you get your break in voiceover? So I interviewed some of the top pro guys. And what was interesting, and I mentioned this in the seminar that I did, it's called E.G. Daly's Up Close and Personal Voiceover Seminar. In that seminar, I talked about when I asked the different voiceover celebrities or superstars, every one of them was like, oh, I was a singer at a wedding, and somebody heard me talking in between and thought I had a cool voice and called me and asked me to try to do voiceover. Or, oh, I was doing stand-up comedy and someone heard me and they asked me to, like, what was so interesting about it was like, was it fluke or fate? But it was always some random thing. It wasn't like, I'm just going to do, I'm going to go do voiceover. Some people deliberately go out, which is great too. There's no right way or wrong way. I'm just saying it is beautiful to just be doing your art, because then people hear you and see you. And wherever that is, if you sing, whatever that is, it's just cool where you never know how the opportunities are going to come. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I agree. We've been interviewing a handful of people at this point, and they all have a very similar kind of trajectory. Like they were doing something, pursuing some passion, and just everything lined up right and led them to voiceover somehow. And that's really pretty cool.
That's right. Mine was, I was doing a play and a musical, and somebody came opening night that was a voice agent. He was my agent for many, many years, but he was like, wow, you're really good with your voice, and you know how to do all different age ranges, and they're all very realistic and profoundly realistic. And he was like, do you want to try to go on an audition? And I was like, yeah, sure. I was open. It wasn't like, oh my God, I'm getting the opportunity of life. I didn't think anything because I was just happy doing the play, the musical.
Yeah.
You just never know where opportunities are going to come from.
And it's about the acting, so it's like you can get all the voiceover training, but it's about the acting, and that's where you came from. You were coming from the acting. So
it did come from the acting for me. Like I started as an actress. I actually started as a singer. Actually, before that, I started as a dancer. So yeah, I started dancing young, and then I taught myself how to play guitar and sing really young. And then that sort of, because I was a little shy for the on-camera acting stuff. I felt shy and it felt awkward to me. And then as I started learning and bettering my craft, then I didn't feel as self-conscious because I was actually applying myself to something that I wasn't trying to be liked or not be liked. I was just trying to do my work.
Can you kind of give us a like walkthrough of your day, or how, what happens when you receive an audition or a script? What kind of process do you go through?
I mean, I just like look at my emails, and if there's a voiceover audition, then I go up into my little booth that I have, and I'll check whatever the show is, and if I'll look at some episodes if there's an established show already for the tone of the show, familiarize if it is fast paced or if it's realistic or not, or animated, anime, whatever it is. So I just kind of try to get familiar with what the project is. It's not like a long process; it's very simple, and then I'll just look at the descriptions of the characters and make a choice. Like they say, she's very feisty and she's bossy and she's young. So then I'll think, okay, feisty, bossy, and I'll be like, yeah, well, everyone needs to come over to my house because today we're going to get into something really big. Everybody pay attention. I just kind of go into whatever it is. I just read the description and just go right in. Or if it's more realistic, it's like, I think today we're going to be working on things in my house. So everyone needs to pay attention, tone it down or whatever it is. That's all. I just kind of like read the descriptions and then I just go for it. I don't overthink it. I might do a take two sometimes, but I try not to overthink it. I think my first instincts are usually better. And then if I overthink it, then it just becomes like torture because then I'm not enjoying it. And yeah.
We are constantly telling people that. I love that you're saying, like, keep it simple. You don't have to spend hours preparing for an audition. It's just, keep it nice and simple and go with your instincts.
Yeah, you really are either the right voice or not. They're going to know in 2 seconds what they're looking for. So we could spend 2 hours perfecting each line and they don't care. So it's, I just think kind of, there were times where I spent more time on something like if it was a voice match thing. And of course I wanted to try to capture the voice as much as I could. But even that, you're either right or you're not.
This is fantastic.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And you said your seminar is on Amazon. I can find it on Amazon.
Yeah, it's called E.G. Daly's and Personal Voiceover Seminar. There's also a one-woman autobiographical musical that I released years ago that's quite profound. It talks about my journey in the business and personal life around the business. And it's very vulnerable and funny, and it's a musical too. So that's a neat piece of product. It's one of my favorite projects, actually. When you ask what was I think I'd have to say Listen Closely again, it's up on Amazon. But
Awesome.
yeah, the voiceover seminar is up there, and it's just like I had some people come and guest, and it's fun.
Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
Catch our next Voiceover Casting Corner episode live on Facebook and YouTube. Check our socials or follow us for the latest info. Thanks for listening.